So we're grateful to Elizabeth Treble and the American Heart Association team for helping us organize today's Lunch and Learn, which is focused on an important topic that I'm sure we could all approve upon, which is stress management. Stress can greatly impact your overall heart health. So, as we approach another busy selling season, layered in with that holiday stress, it's important to keep your heart health top of mind. We're joined by a special guest today, Dr. Stacey Neal, who is a psychiatrist with Kaiser Permanente, and she is here to provide some tips and best practices on managing holiday stress and work stress for both better mental and heart health. We encourage you to ask questions throughout today's webinar by using the chat feature. And as always, as part of our Sheehy Has Heart Rewards program, if you do engage with today's webinar, you'll be eligible to receive some heart healthy rewards. You can also earn a heart healthy prize by sending an email to marketing@sheehy.com anytime between now and the end of the year, showing your team either watching today's webinar or explaining what you took away from the presentation, or simply showing us how you've implemented some of today's tips into your own life. Please send photos whenever possible so we can share your heart healthy progress and efforts in both our employee newsletters as well as on social media. All right, with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Elizabeth with the AHA now so we can get things started. Good morning, Elizabeth.
Morning, Lauren. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to be here with Team Sheehy. Thank you to everyone dialing in today. And I just want to say what a privilege it is to get to work with the amazing Sheehy team who puts their money where their mouth is and practices what they preach every day in terms of taking care of their employees and their community. And we are just so grateful. Here at the Heart Association, there's been a growing body of research in the last decade or so confirming what we've sort of always known, which is that the heart and the mind are inextricably linked. And we are so proud to be partnering with groups like Sheehy and today's presenter, Kaiser Permanente, another amazing supporter, who are really understanding that heart health and mental health are one and the same. Our mind affects our body and our body affects our mind. And I'm so excited to be able to introduce to you today Dr. Neal, who is a psychiatrist with Kaiser Permanente and who will be walking us through some ways to manage our stress during what we know is this double whammy for you all. The busiest time of the year. My father-in-law was a car salesman his whole life. So I know what you all are under, not to mention all the stresses at home. The holiday season is full of joy, but also in-laws and children and presents and food and all the other things that keep us all so busy in these next 90 days. So, or in these next 45 days. So Dr. Neal, take it away. I'm excited to learn from you today.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Thank you for having me. I'm really just so impressed that the Sheehy team is taking time out for just bring some awareness to mental health and heart health. And so I want to thank everyone who's joining the call, taking time. I hear that it's a very busy time. I really appreciate you taking the time to listen. And I hope that you come away from this talk feeling really just empowered, refreshed, renewed, and inspired to either start or continue some healthy habits that are going to benefit your mental health and your heart health and your overall health. So I would love to, let me see, I'm not seeing the slides. Okay, yeah, next slide. Thank you. So yes, the heart and mind and body are deeply connected. When I was in medical school, one thing that we learned about was there was a particular day of the week that was, the most busy in an emergency room for like the incidence of heart attacks. And that day of the week was Sunday night going into Monday morning. That was the time when people are anticipating going back to work and feeling very stressed. And that causes an increase in adrenaline and cortisol, and it increases your risk for cardiac events. And so that system is it's your fight or flight response. When that adrenaline is going, it's getting your heart rate up, getting you breathing faster. You may have muscle tension. You may have some anxiety or nervousness. But the good news is we have a system in our body that does the complete opposite. We call it the relaxation response, or the rest and digest response. And so I want to talk with you about ways to kind of strengthen that response, because our day-to-day lives, if you think of kind of a balance of scales between relaxation and kind of that fight or flight response. Our day-to-day lives are heavy on the stress and weighing down and strengthening that fight or flight response. But we have to be more intentional about strengthening that relaxation response, which will have a positive impact on not just your mental health, but your heart health, your overall physical health. So I'm going to talk with you more about just some signs of stress and what you can do about that. Okay, next slide. And if you are feeling stressed out, you're not alone. Certainly before the pandemic, just we live in a fast-paced, high-stress society, and even before the pandemic, many adults were feeling very stressed. But in 2020, a survey showed that about 1 in 5 adults said their mental health was worse that year than it had been the previous year. I relate that to stress, and we certainly seem to be on the other side of the pandemic, but some of us are still struggling with the toll that the pandemic took on us in terms of, loss of loved ones. Maybe I seem to see a higher incidence of divorce in a lot of my patients just because of that, some of the stress and life changes that we went through during the pandemic. And we may have picked up some unhealthy habits to deal with stress, like smoking, stress eating or overeating, physical inactivity, I'm sorry, because stress can kind of paralyze us and make us not want to move. And these factors can lead to weight gain, which can increase your risk for high blood pressure and diabetes. And that chronic stress can lead to inflammation and plaque around the arteries. And also we know that it increases your risk for depression and anxiety. And these are all risk factors for heart disease and stroke. Okay, next slide. Thank you. So I put this slide here, why do we feel stressed? But I'm hearing, I think you already know a lot about stress. I'm hearing that you are in a very fast-paced, high-pressure work environment in general, and that the holiday time is kind of crunch time for you in terms of, maybe sales targets and deadlines and paperwork. And then just adding to that, the holiday stress, maybe shopping, family get-togethers, which may be wonderful, or you may find those interactions very stressful. We're going to talk more about ways to manage that stress. I just added here, not all stress is bad stress. Things like, moving or getting a new job, the holidays. These can be positive things, but they're stressful, and we do want to know how to best take care of ourselves during those times. Okay, next slide. All right, and so you can see here just some common signs of chronic stress. You may feel fatigued. You may have some like butterflies in your stomach or nausea and heartburn, muscle tension, aches and pains, trouble sleeping, sweating, chest pain, irritability, hair loss, weight changes, acne, menstrual changes, loss of interest in activities, headaches. I would add to this list problems with concentration and memory. A lot of times I see patients that they say they're feeling overwhelmed and stressed, and a big complaint is that they, maybe they're forgetful or they just can't concentrate. So that's a common sign. And so now, what do we do about that? So the natural tendency can sometimes be to want to avoid stress, but that can be very counterproductive. The more we avoid, it seems to be the less that we're actually able to do. We're not like hardened to like managing certain situations if we're chronically avoiding those situations. And for some of us, avoiding stress may look like sleeping too much or procrastinating, avoiding social situations, avoiding work, relying on alcohol or other substances to kind of numb us. Managing stress looks more like getting enough sleep, turning off your devices, turning off the TV, and going to bed at a reasonable time, exercising regularly. Exercise is a great way to discharge and release some of that nervous energy. Eating a healthy diet. We know research shows there's a really strong connection between the gut and the brain. And so, eating a diet that's high in fruits and vegetables, high in antioxidants, avoiding certain foods like foods that are high in sugar and fat, fried foods. Those kinds of foods are really connected to like depression and anxiety symptoms, as well as not being good for your heart health and your overall health. And then there's meditation, self-care, and breathing exercises, what we call like the relaxation exercises, which we know actually can decrease your blood pressure. They can improve your immune response. There's studies that show their actual changes in the brain in people who meditate regularly. And so there's a lot of benefits to managing your stress. Okay, next slide. And so this is just a short clip. I really love this short video from the American Heart Association's YouTube channel about just taking some time for yourself. So we can go ahead and play that. Thanks.
Sometimes stress feels like the only constant, and I know that stress may lead to heart disease and stroke. So today I decided to put my phone down and simply breathe. I'm focusing on what I can control, like turning little moments into me time to help my mind, heart, and body. I'm reclaiming my time. Deep breaths for just 1 minute, a walk with my dog, or calling a friend. This is my time and my health, and moment by moment, I'm owning it. Sometimes stress feels like the
Sorry. And then I would love to see in the chat, if there's ways that you love to kind of de-stress and relax. I would love to see some responses in the chat. Working out. I see working out from Kara. That's a great way. For me, I love dance and movies. So I'll keep looking back at cooking and decorating. Very nice. Okay. Okay, board games with the kids. That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay. And so I wanted to point out that sometimes we can feel like taking time out for fun and enjoyable things. We're gonna fall behind on our work or other responsibilities. But when you actually take time for self-care, you're gonna come back refreshed. You may kind of get ideas that you didn't get while you were sitting and staring at a problem, and you will probably find that your productivity is increased rather than decreased. And I love this saying, it's those who don't make time for wellness will be forced to make time for illness. And I just think that that is so crucial to remember. Sometimes we have a lot of guilt about, taking time for ourselves. And so, I here just some examples of good self-care, making sure you're getting your health checkups on time, getting enough sleep. Maybe you're checking in with a therapist or a coach, have eating well, the deep breathing and meditation. I would add to that like a gratitude practice, any mindfulness practice, movement, exercise is so important. Spending time with a pet can really benefit your mental health and your physical health, and socializing as well. Sometimes in my practice, often in my practice, I will ask patients who come to me with a lot of stress and worry, like, what are you doing for fun or relaxation? And sometimes the answer is nothing. And when I hear that, I know that's a big red flag. That's a big problem. So it's so important to make some time for yourself. And so I want to take some time right now to invite you to participate in a breathing exercise. And we're just going to do this for about 1 or 2 minutes, but you could continue this practice, at home, maybe when you wake up in the morning or before you go to bed at night, or even just take a minute before something stressful like a sales pitch or meeting. It can really it can be surprising the difference you can make in how you're feeling in just a few minutes. So I'm going to invite you to just get seated comfortably and position your feet on the floor and your hands in your lap, and just close your eyes. And picture yourself in a peaceful place. Perhaps you're lying on a beach, walking in the mountains, or floating in the clouds. And just hold this scene in your mind. And we're going to do what's called a triangular breath. We're going to inhale for a count of 4, hold that for a count of 4, and then breathe out for a count of 4. And I want you to repeat that same rhythm: in for 4, hold for 4, and out for 4. I'm just going to look at the time while we do that. And I want you to pay attention to your shoulders. Drop your shoulders down away from your ears. Sometimes when we're stressed, we kind of bunch up like this. Just drop your shoulders away from your ears. If there's any tension in your jaw, let that go loose. And while you're breathing, hopefully you're enjoying a relaxing feeling. So in for 4, hold for 4, and out for 4. And I hope you continue to breathe slowly. And we're just coming up to about a minute. And I want you to just bring your awareness back to your body and slowly open your eyes. And I hope that felt relaxing. I know that was a short practice, but I really think a short amount of time can make a lot of difference. When I'm feeling anxious, I just, kind of take some deep breaths, and maybe even less than a minute. And sometimes people complain of feeling too restless to sit and do a mindfulness or meditation activity. If you're feeling restless, just you can walk and meditate with obviously with your eyes open. There are many ways to meditate. Here are some resources, some great resources. The Calm app has some really great guided meditations and sleep stories. If you're having trouble sleeping, or if your child is having trouble sleeping, they're great to just put on at night. If you're a basketball fan, the Calm app has some really cool a really cool meditation series by LeBron James, and one by George Mumford, who's a psychologist and an elite performance expert who wrote the book, The Mindful Athlete: Secrets to Pure Performance. And he has trained Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant and others in meditation strategies. And the Ginger app is also a great resource with text-based support with a therapist. And the American Heart Association's website has a ton of resources on stress to help you manage, like I said, which is great for both, not just your mental health, but also for your heart health. They have tons of videos and one-pagers, so I hope you'll review that. And I want to hopefully we have a few minutes for questions, if there are any. And I will try.
Dr. Neal, we got a couple in the chat. One of them was around apps, so it looks like we got
Okay.
we answered that one. Lauren's a
Okay.
little bit psychic here, I see. There's another question before us. Does it matter what time of day we eat? Can that help or hurt us?
So it does matter. I think it's really, I hear a lot of patients tell me they don't eat breakfast, and maybe that may be your natural rhythm, but that long fast overnight, your blood sugar can drop, and when your blood sugar is low, that's another um, cause of feeling anxious or stressed. So I do encourage, eating breakfast and eating at regular times throughout the day, and not eating too late at night. That can, eating very late at night can affect the quality of your sleep. But, it, there are times where you really can't help it. I'm a mom, and you sometimes you get busy. So there's no, I think don't beat yourself up too much if you don't get to eat until 9 p.m. or something like that. But if you can have a routine of eating, a breakfast when you wake up, lunch, and a dinner at a reasonable time, that's very helpful.
Well, here's a good question for a mom. Any tips for balancing work stress and home stress without feeling like you're dropping all the balls?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a hard one. I think, as parents, sometimes we feel like, um, at least for me, sometimes you feel like you're the only one who knows how to do a certain thing a certain way. And so you may take on all of the tasks at home. I think it's important to relinquish some control and trust, if you have a partner at home, or if there are maybe other family members who are helpful, kind of relinquish some of that control. Let other people do things. It can actually be pretty rewarding for your kids to have other adults, be very active in their lives. So I think letting go of some tasks that you don't have to be the only person who does the laundry or does the dishes, or does homework with the kids. And just trust that when you take some time for yourself and let someone else help you, you're going to come back a better version of yourself. I know for myself, when I am kind of burnt out and frazzled and irritable, it's not helping my child. You know what I mean? So, if you, like I said, if you take time out for yourself, you're just going to bring a better self back to your family.
Love that. Well, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yes.
Is there a better time of day to practice breathing techniques, or does that matter?
I don't think personally, I think you should do it any time of day that you can fit it in. It's lovely if you can start your day off with, a breathing exercise or meditation to kind of center yourself for your day. But I don't think it has to be be in the morning. I think any time of day is great. Sometimes if you're restful at night, you can't fall asleep, that's a great time to try a meditation. So really any time of the day is great. And
Uh,
any length of time I think is great.
Breathing technique clearly resonated. We got another one here. In addition to the breathing exercise, if you only have 2 minutes, what other strategies do you recommend?
If you only have 2 minutes other than a breathing exercise, I think there's so many. I will tell you, gratitude is a great practice. If you can maybe write down 3 things that you're grateful for that day, that usually doesn't take long. Getting up and stretching, moving your body is so important for obviously your heart health, and for your mental health. So, if you don't have a time to take like a 5 or 10 minute walk, maybe you just stand up and stretch. If you have a minute to, maybe put on a song on YouTube that you love to move your body to, I think that's great. Um, I'll tell you, I have a jump rope that is, by my desk, and sometimes I will just set a timer for 1 minute and jump with the jump rope. I think that's a great activity. So I hope those are some helpful ideas.
Great suggestions for our Move More sponsor. He sponsored our movement challenge last month. So we know
Oh,
folks love
awesome.
getting up and moving. They get
I
very
love
competitive
that.
on their step challenge.
Oh, I love
We
that.
just got another question. Any advice for team members on how to let the work stress go when they go home and not bring that stress home to their families? That is not just a question for the Sheehy team. I would like to know that one too.
Okay, letting that stress go before you get home.
Yeah.
So I think all of these practices are intended to kind of help you let go of that stress. I think if you have if you have a commute, that's a great time to maybe if you enjoy listening to an audiobook or a commute, or if you can take a few minutes before you get to your car, maybe you can walk around your building for a few minutes and stretch your legs before you start your commute. I think that's great. I think humor, laughter is medicine. Throwing on a short comedy YouTube clip, or looking at the cute puppy videos, I think is a great way to kind of de-stress. And sometimes it's helpful to, if you have a lot on your mind that you're ruminating about, I think getting it down on paper is a helpful way to release it. Just kind of journaling can be a great way to release some of those worries um, until you pick it back up again.
Love that. This is maybe a perfect note to end on, is the power of that commute time and what a sanctuary our cars can be for just resetting ourselves as we move
Yes.
from stressful environment to stressful environment and try not to carry those things with us. I know during the pandemic, my car became the only place I ever felt like I was alone. So I can appreciate
Yes.
that. And that I can't think of a more perfect note to end on as we call Lauren back on to close us out today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Neal.
Thank you so much, Dr. Neal, and AHA team. Couldn't agree more. We definitely need all the help we can when we're on that commute to and from work. So I hope that all of our Sheehy team members got a few tips today. And even if you can just start small, don't overwhelm yourself with trying to improve your stress control. But any little change you make is going to help you in the long run. And again, we encourage you to share those changes with us by emailing marketing@sheehy.com so that we can give you recognition in the employee newsletter and set examples for others. But overall, we hope that you enjoyed today's webinar and you took something from it, and that you have a less stressful day as a result heading into the holiday season. So thank you, AHA team, and thank you, Sheehy team members.